Hey guys, I'm back. You know, I was fucking pissed off. I filmed like a 45-minute video last night. It was fucking nuts. I was going crazy with the mental thoughts, and shit didn't save. I was fucking pissed off. I was pretty drunk, off some wine. Kind of got the empty bottle over here, and I was just spitting, and I was mad. I didn't save, and I really put in some good work to that. I was really confident in that kind of stuff. I've had some things go on in my life last couple of days, and all I've been wanting to do was get in front of this camera and just talk because this is this might be good content for you guys, but this is helping me out mentally so much. I 45 minutes was a long time, and probably wouldn't have gotten the engagement that I would hope, but I don't really give a fuck. Like, I'm not posting this shit. If I blow up somehow, I blow up. It's not that big of a deal to me. This YouTube shit isn't like my main focus. I'm really focused on like TikTok edits and my photography because that's easier to blow up, and then I can use that to transfer over to this. But I don't really care about long videos. I just want to talk. I feel like a lot of my thoughts can be agreed upon mentally, and a lot of other people my age, a lot of guys my age, women too, maybe, but I feel like a lot of what I'm saying aligns with a lot of guys my age, and I just want to talk. So I don't really give a fuck if the video is long, and if you don't have a fucking attention span, I don't really care. That being said, this video will probably be like 25-30 minutes, and this is about nihilism and absurdism, why nothing matters and why that changes everything. I've actually written a lot of this stuff down because I had a lot of thoughts about this topic. I'm reading a book, and it's about Greek and Roman philosophy, like philosophers, etc., stuff like that, just philosophers of our time, and philosophies that people should live by, and philosophies that you should read and digest because they really help you out. So I saw these two in the book, and I did some research onto it, and I have some shit written down. I shall start. The two philosophies, they get confused a lot. Nihilism and absurdism. People hear both and they think they mean the same thing. That life is pointless, but they are far from identical. Nihilism is the collapse of meaning. Absurdism begins there. But instead of giving up, it asked, what do we do once we realize the universe owes us no answers? And my take on that last sentence is nihilism is basically it's a broad philosophy sense, and it's very traditional. It's essentially that nothing in life matters, so why worry about it, But in reality, nothing matters. Yes, that's true. Everybody dies. Everyone meets their maker, if depending on what you believe in, or if you believe in nothing happens and you're just gone from this world. Everybody gets to a point in their life where they will die, and you can't bring anything with you. So why live? To this also kind of can tie back to materialistic stuff. Why live for the goal of getting shit like that when you can't be buried with it? It's somewhat true, nihilism, but absurdism, it's thinking that, but then also thinking, yes, that's true. The world owes me nothing. So I'm going to get everything that I can because nothing is owed to me. I'm not promised things in life. You could be promised things if you grow up rich, shit like that. Like, you're promised a good job from your fucking parents, etc. But the majority of human beings on this planet, nothing in life is promised to them, and their entire life plays out by what they do and how they want to achieve, and what they want to achieve and how they go about achieving that thing. So this for the first part will be about nihilism. The second part will be about absurdism, and then I'll tie them together. Nihilism is the broad philosophical sense and a view that traditional values, meanings, and foundations do not hold. The Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy describes it as the belief that the values are baseless and associates it with possessivism, skepticism, and purposelessness. I'm sorry, I had a little brain fart there. Philosopher, I'm gonna butcher this name. I just saw this name in this book, so I'm gonna butcher it. Obviously, it's a German name. It sounds like philosopher Nietzsche is strongly linked to Nephesism because he diagnosed the collapse of traditional religious and moral certainties in Europe, even though he is not best understood as simply endorsing nihilism. A quote from him is, "God is dead." This quote does not just mean literal atheism. In philosophy, it points to the collapse of an old shared framework that told people the truth, morality, and purpose that we're supposed to be. Once that framework loses its power, people are left asking, if there's no higher order, then what makes anything matter? That is the Nephilistic crisis. People go out their lives and they believe in this higher power, and they believe that this person, mind you, this is not my point of view, I'm just saying, they believe that this person is, you have to live your life at the grace and the will of a higher power, some believing as God, Muhammad, etc. So you live your life doing that, and then you go through a series of events in your life that most people will go through, where you start to doubt that, and you start to realize, if I'm doing everything good in life and shitty things to keep on happening to me, is this actually real? Is this true? I know that's when my mother died when I was a kid, and I was like, if God is real, why would he let my mother die? I completely gave up my faith because I realized, my mother did nothing wrong in her life, and she was a perfect person in my eyes as I can remember, and God just took her. So like, what is there to live for if there's no higher power? It doesn't. Life means nothing if everything just comes to an end at some point. I think that's a good quote to look at, not in the fact of I'm putting down Jesus, I'm putting down God, I'm putting down religion. I'm not at all. I'm far from an atheist. I'm very far from it. I have a belief of a higher power. I just don't know if the higher power has the power that people want you to believe in. I said in a previous video, like I get jealous about people who could believe and fully put their life towards somebody like God, because I just can't do that. I can't believe in something without physical proof. I cannot bring myself to do that. Second quote by this same philosopher: he who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow. This quote matters because it shows the real danger of Nephilism. Fuck it, I don't care. If a person loses their why, their deeper reason for life, then suffering starts to feel random and unbearable. Nephilism is that guy right there. It is not just an abstract theory. It is a human crisis where pain no longer seems to serve any purpose. This is why Nephilism can feel emotionally devastating. If you have no purpose in life, but you struggle every single day in that same life, what's the point of living? There's no point in life if you have no thing to strive towards. And Nephilism comes into play here because it ties into this exactly. Honestly, this quote exactly. It's like, if a person loses their why to live, what's the point of living? If you suffer, if you go 2 weeks and you're perfectly fine, you're having fun, you're going out, you're seeing friends, you're doing well in work, etc. Depending on where you are in your stage of life, and then boom, something happens and everything just goes to shit, and you have no purpose anymore. What is the point to life? There's no point to life if you're not living to be something or to be someone. The next quote. This is from the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy. This isn't from. Let me pronounce his name again. Let me not butcher it. Frederick Nietzsche, Nietzsche, Nietzsche. I butchered the fuck out of that, but Nephesism is a view that values are baseless and life lacks inherent purpose. This is the cleanest summary. Nephesism says that meaning is not built into reality. Morality, purpose, truth, even identity can start to look unstable. The danger is that this can lead to despair or destruction. But historically, for thinkers like Nietzsche, Nephesism is also a diagnosis, a stage civilization passes through when inherited values stop working. I don't think many people that are young would look into this and could think about this, because you really only start feeling like this when you have purposes in life, because you want to strive for that purpose, and then you might fail and you realize, I failed, I fucked up, I don't know how to fix this, what is the point? That's why it says it can lead to despair or destruction, because you could destruct your own life given off one fail towards your goal, and you could throw off your entire process. Everything you did to get to that one spot, that one point, can be thrown off completely because of one failure, and that's very, very strong. I remember when my goal in my life is, I said this multiple times, is to be a profitable day trader, and I want to live off that. And I will. I tried to get into this stuff for the last 2 years, and I blew a funded account in a day, and I was like, I've put in 3 months of paper trading and 3 months of jotting down every trade possible. I was doing well, bought an account, and I lost it in one day. What is the point to this, And that stuck by me for a while, and I never really locked into it like I have been out here, I'm going to talk about absurdism, but a little transition. Nephesism says meaning collapses, absurdism starts there. But instead of stopping at the collapse, it asks what happens when human beings keep wanting meaning anyway. The core idea of absurdism. Absurdism begins with attention. Humans naturally want clarity, order, and meaning, but the universe gives them no final answer. The Stafford Encyclopedia and IEP both describe the absurd of arising from the confrontation between a human demand for meaning and an indifferent or silent world. It's what I get from that is, you could lose everything in your life and you could think there's no meaning, but if you keep on having a want and you keep on finding a purpose and you keep on finding order in your life and a meaning to your life, you will do nothing but thrive, because that means your brain and your brain process is constantly just trying to find new ways to get to where you want to be in life. Quote one for this: the absurd is born of this confrontation between the human needs and the unreasonable silence of the world. Albert Camus, who's an older philosopher, The Myth of Sisyphus, which is a book Albert Camus wrote. This is the heart of absurdism. The absurd is not just that the world is meaningless, it is the clash between two things: our intense need for nothing and the world's refusal to provide it. If Nephesism is a statement, there is no inherent meaning. Nephesism is the experience of living with that realization while still being a creature that longs for meaning. I think that's a great way to explain, the base of absurdism. There's always, everyone's going to have this intense need for meaning. If you want to be successful in life, if you want to live a good life, you want to find a meaning, you want to find a purpose. But the world isn't just going to hand it to you. You have to go out and do things and try new things and try to do new things. That's what I did with this shit. I would never in my life think I'd be talking to a camera and posting it to fucking YouTube publicly. I only have 15 subscribers right now, but like I said, I don't give a fuck about that. I'm posting shit to the world, and I would have never done this if I hadn't just said fuck it. I want to figure out new ways of life, new ways to prosper in my life, and one of the ways was this. I found a new meaning, you could say. Next quote, same man, Albert Camus. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. This is a book, by the way. This is The Myth of Sisyphus. I haven't read it yet, so I can't give a firm detail about it. But I heard this man has some insane words and insane statements. So I do want to get around to reading one of Camus's books. This is Camus's answer to absurd. Syphilis labors in pointless, repetitive, and endless. But Camus says that the victory comes from consciousness and defiance. Sisyphus knows the truth of his condition, still continues. Happiness is not comfort, it's a rebellion. It is a refusal to let a meaningless universe defeat your spirit, There's so many times in life, so many people in life, so many stories that you'll hear of people getting hit down once. They get hit to the ground and they just don't get back up. They accept the truth, or not the truth, they accept the facts and they accept what happened and they just don't care to fix that. And this quote's, although I didn't read the book, what I got from this quote is my explanation for my thought process on it is you could understand where you are at in life and understand that you have no meaning to it, but if you grow to be comfortable in that spot of life, you will never get out of there. You will never change. You will never find the happiness and the true meaning of life if you get too complacent, too comfortable in one spot. You don't find new meaning. The third and final quote of this little section is of the struggle itself towards the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. Same book, same author, Albert Camus. This is where absurdism breaks into hopelessness. Camus is saying that even if there's no final cosmic justification, the act of living, striving, loving, creating, and resisting still has force. Meaning is not discovered in some hidden divine blueprint, it is lived in the struggle itself. And with this, it's pretty self-explanatory. I feel like this is pretty easy to digest this and talk about this quote. It's saying, there's no blueprint on life. There's no when you're born, you're not given a list. You're not given a cheat sheet on life, on what you have to do and what you have to do to get to certain spots, on how you have to live life. There's no cheat sheet on it. You have to struggle in life to see the meaning of it, because struggling is a major part in life. If you don't struggle, you won't find the success that you want to find, because struggling, having your back against the wall, having nothing to lose but everything to gain is the best position you can be in. Honestly, there's no other there's no other position that I would rather be in when trying to find something in life than my back against the wall, nothing to lose but everything to gain. Because then you'll do whatever it takes to gain that. And I think that's a great thing to live by. How nepotism turns into absurdism. This is nepotism and absurdism are connected because absurdism begins where nepotism hits hardest. First, you lose the illusion that the world comes with built-in meaning, like I was talking about. There's no blueprint to life. This is the nephesis moment. Then comes the absurdism moment. Even after losing that meaning, you still wake up, you still hope, you still love, you still suffer, still ask questions. You still want questions from the universe. You still want answers from the universe that stays silent. You still want to see these questions and you still want to have your questions answered, but no one's going to answer them for you, but yourself, but your actions in your life. Looking back to Camus interprets and are clear that the absurd is not nepotism. He rejects the move from meaninglessness to a total inaction. Instead, absurd awareness is supposed to generate revolt, lucidity, and participation in life. Living by this, you will want to always have something to strive for. You will want to have a meaning. You will want to have something that you could live by. A clean way to explain the difference. Nepotism is there's no inherent meaning, so nothing matters. Absurdism, there's no inherent meaning, but I'm still here, conscious, alive, and refusing surrender. The second move is everything. Camus takes the emptiness revealed by by nephesism and turns it into a challenge. You can live without appeal, without false hope, and still say yes to life. You can still live life to the fullest, to your fullest amount, even though you don't think you have any purpose. Because when you live like that, you will find a purpose eventually. That's how the world works. Nephesism is a collapse of inherited meaning, like I said. Absurdism is what makes a meaning-seeking creation, is when a meaning-seeking creature survives that collapse, the collapse of nephesism. Nephesism stares into a void and risks despair. Absurdism stares into the same void and says, fine, I will live anyway, not because the universe promised me purpose, but because my rebellion against meaninglessness becomes its own kind of dignity. You gain dignity, you gain a pride, because you know that there's no inherent purpose in life. You know that you're not gifted a purpose. You have to go find that, and being able to go out and conquer meaninglessness is something to be proud of. If you could successfully do that and have meaning in life and constantly have meaning in life, it's something to be proud of. Nephesism concerns value destruction and purposelessness, while Camus's absurdism describes the tension of human longing in a silent world and answers it with revolt matters than surrender. Maybe that's why these ideas still hit so hard. Nephesism tears down the comfort that life comes with a built-in script. Absurdism accepts that loss but refuses to die inside because of it. It says that, yes, the universe is silent. Yes, it certainly is gone. But, I can still think, I can still, love, I can still create, I can still laugh and push through anyway. And maybe this is the most human answer of all. Maybe the point to being a human being is to go through shit like that and be able to get out on the other side and think, hey, I tried, I found a purpose in something, I found a meaning in something, and I found that my life is better when I'm like that. And I think that's a great way to go about life and a great way to look at those two topics. You should always want to strive to find something, because although you have no built-in purpose, you will always have a purpose if you keep on trying to find that purpose. It will come to you eventually. Now I'm going to smoke this cigarette and going to do some looking into my idea notebook that I have. It's inside, so I have to go grab it. And I might add on to this video, but we'll see. But I'm going to smoke this cigarette. I'm going to pause the video. Whether I continue it or not, I'll still have a little outro for you guys, so don't worry. I'm not leaving you guys here. Some ash got on my table, so I'll be back in a little bit, fellas. I went to my little notebook and I got down. This man named Franz Kafka, who was he was alive in the late 1800s, early 1900s. He died very young of tuberculosis, unfortunately, because he was a great mind. He was a German language, Jewish Czechoslovakian writer and novelist. He born in Prague in the Austro-Hungarian Empire back in the day. Back when it was combined and a whole empire and shit. And he was a fantastic writer, and a lot of his stuff is dark, I guess you could say, but very, very true, and I think some of this stuff ties into somewhat of what I just said, because a whole wanting to find a purpose and not be able to find one. First quote that I saw doing some research on him: man is terribly afraid of dying because he has not yet lived. And I think this goes into absurdism a lot, because at least for me, I've seen enough death in my life, personally and family wise, that death itself doesn't, without sounding corny or cliche, death itself doesn't really frighten me, because I've accepted the fact that life is short and you could die tomorrow. You could die whenever. There's no date. There's no confirmed death date. Everyone who's alive right now on their tombstone has one set of numbers. There's no second set there, and you thrive to do what you can and live the life that you want to live before that second set of numbers appears on that tombstone. And I think that I'm not afraid of death, but I don't really welcome it. You know, you could welcome death and you could be afraid of death. Two different things. You know, I don't want to die at this age. You know, I have so much aspirations, so many goals in my life that death just does not seem. Death just seems so far out of the picture that like I wouldn't say I'm scared of dying, but I'm scared of dying young. You know, there's so much to do and there's so much to see in life, and so much just that life has to offer, and it's such a shame that people are taken so young, and kids die, and you know, teenagers, 20, 30s, you know, like, because you're so young. Even in your 30s, you still have on average 50, 60 years of your fucking life left to live, and you just die. You know, that whole concept is just crazy to me, because it's like, not concept, I guess, but like it's just so crazy how people stress out about the dumbest things, you know, the things that will not do anything but for them in a positive way in life. And people worry about the dumbest things, and people stress out, and people complain and worry about the past, and worry about things they can't change, or and it just bugs them out, and they get so warped in that world, and they lose track of the fact that, you know, life's not waiting for you. You know, it's you have to go out and do what you can before that life eventually, that last set of numbers like I was talking about, eventually catch up to you. You know, like I said, off that quote, you can probably tell this motherfucker, Franz Kafka was pretty deep, pretty dark man. I mean, he died young, so he obviously was going through some shit. I mean, tuberculosis isn't, from what I understand, is not a short death. You know, you suffer with that. The second quote that I saw online when I was reading into him, that I thought, I only wanted to share two quotes. I didn't want to make a long ass video today. You know, you can hold yourself back from the suffering of the world. That is something you are free to do. Free will is free will. But perhaps this very holding back is the one suffering you could avoid. You know, you're scared, and you're worried about going out into the real world and trying to accomplish things, because you're scared of failure, and you're scared that, you know, you're going to suffer from trying to do new things. And yes, you will suffer, but think of yourself in 10, 15, 20 years, the amount of suffering that you will be going through because you were scared of that first initial of that first initial failure. You know, you were scared to try to go out and do something because you were scared of what might come from that, and then boom, your life is not anything what you wanted it to be. It's something that, like, life and suffering in life is something you should invite with open arms, because if you suffer in life, that only means that you are trying something that you have never tried before, and you want to accomplish something that you've never accomplished. So I think that's a good little quote to read up on. I have a little Amazon like cart of books about some philosophers that I've read into over the last week or two, and I think I want to start giving you guys some crazy knowledge, and I will start giving you guys some crazy like opinions on certain things, and I just, like I said, I don't care if this shit doesn't blow up. I'm just talking to talk, and I'm talking about real life shit, and I hope that you guys like this kind of stuff. I know it's like a lot of people are doing the shit that I'm doing, but like, I'm not doing it in ways that other people are doing. I'm just, all this shit mostly is just off my head. I'll write down 10 minutes of notes in a 35-minute video, you know, 35-minute video. And on my shorter videos, there's no notes at all. That's why it's a little bit shorter, because it's all just off my head. Like for this thing, I had, let's see, because I had like how long I wanted to talk about each topic and how much notes I had for each, and I had like 12 minutes exactly for my main core ideas, and this video is going to end up being 30 minutes plus. So I just I want you guys to think about think about new things in life and think about finding new purposes. And you should always have a new purpose. You should always strive for a purpose in life because having a purpose will only help you succeed. That being said, I'm gonna end the video here, guys. Have a good rest of the day. I know back home it's 1 a.m. here. Most of my viewers are back in the States, so back home it's like 7 p.m. 6 7. I didn't mean to say it like that, but you know what I mean. So I'm gonna end it off with that, and hope you guys like this kind of stuff. I'm gonna keep on doing it, and I appreciate you guys watching this. Although I don't mind having no viewers and no subscribers, I don't really need that stuff. I just want to talk, and I appreciate everyone who watches this, and I just wish everyone the best. I wish everyone the best in life. I've been very humbled since I came out here. I've had a series of events, unfortunate events happen, and I've just been very humbled, and I look at life differently now without sounding corny or cliche. With that being said, I'm going to end this off here. I'm going to probably post a video within the next 2-3 days again. Like I said, I want to post at least 3 a week, so I'm gonna get reading tomorrow and write some stuff down, and hopefully have some content for you guys tomorrow night if you're lucky. But I'll talk to you guys later, and thanks for watching.